So when think of who my mentee needed to be, who I could be a coach for, I was trying to consider who I was in class with. I was looking for someone that might be younger, eager, determined, as well as someone who has asked me for some advice before. And so that is Miss Gowan. Miss Gowan is going to be my mentee. Miss Gowan is someone that I have been able to be a co-teacher with for a couple of years. This year in particular, we have 2 ninth grade lit classes and then 1 American lit class. So we have decided that we're going to have 2 goals that we're going to work on. One goal is going to be student engagement, and we haven't come up with a percentage yet, but student engagement, and also both of us have talked about the desire to have our students want to read for pleasure. So that's going to be our second goal, is students reading for pleasure, not just because they have to get a grade, but they legit just want to pick up a book and read. So that is our 2 goals. And here is Chyna Gowan, and she's going to tell you a little bit about herself.
Okay, so I graduated with my first degree, my undergrad degree, in December 2018, and that degree was just a BA in English, so no education background or anything. And then I got my job teaching shortly after, and then decided to pursue an MAT, a Master of Arts in Teaching. So I recently got that in 2024, summer 2024. This is my 4th year teaching. So most of the years that I've been teaching so far, I was just provisional, I didn't really have the education background. So I feel like I've been able to just learn a lot from those first 4 years. And I've taught 9th grade every single year I've taught. And this year I have half 9th grade and half American literature, which is an EOC course. So that's an interesting mix.
So how would you rate, maybe on a scale from 1 to 10, 10 being the very best and nobody better, your technology skills as well as your technology integration background?
I would say maybe a 6 or a 7, a 6.5. I feel like I integrate technology a good bit. I use a lot of different platforms, like Classroom Screen I use every day for, just to have stuff on the board for my kids to be able to see the whole time, and just different widgets. I also really like using Canva and making sure that my kids know how to use Canva too. I haven't used that as much this year, but last year I used that quite a bit for choice boards and projects and stuff like that. And I feel like
as your instructional coach, there's going to be 2 goals that we're going to try to zone in on. What would you like for those 2 goals to be?
I would want the first goal to be surrounded or based on student engagement, and the second goal to be getting more kids to get interested in reading for pleasure. And I feel like the student engagement one is kind of, for me, I see a lot of my kids just not engaged in anything. Even when I tried to bring in digital factors or kinesthetic things, a lot of times they just are not engaged. They're still not engaged. And so that's a huge one for me, because I was always a really involved student, and I was going to be engaged regardless of what we did. And then the second one I have always been really passionate about, because I feel like kids these days don't read enough. And if you can get them interested in, graphic novels, I teach 2 graphic novels in my 9th grade class because of this. A lot of times if they're reading, if they're seeing pictures with it, if it's not just, a really old text, like an epic poem like the Odyssey, they can get interested. And if they can do that on their own, and we can get them funneled into okay, well, here's a genre that you might like that you can read outside of my classroom, then I think that's helpful.
All right, last question is, what are your initial thoughts, feelings, or concerns from the get-go of me coming to you saying that I would like to be your instructional coach, and we're going to work together, and you're going to be my mentee. What does that leave you with?
I'm really excited about it because I am like, I don't know, I always felt weird about coming into education knowing like nothing. And honestly, it's a really hard field to get into if you don't have, like, it's a lot of learning as you go and that whole process. And since I didn't really have that as a background, I feel like I'm still in the dark, even though this is my 4th year. So I'm really excited to be able to ask questions and learn more things and get more involved with stuff that I am unaware of, and then, you know, use it in my next 4 years of teaching or whatever that looks like for me. So I'm pumped for it.
So lastly, we had a sermon Sunday that talked about how to live for Jesus. But in that sermon, he gave 4 points, and the 4th point was to be growth-minded. And in being growth-minded, what you magnify, you multiply. So when I think about that, I think about what me and Miss Gowan can magnify and what we're trying to magnify and what our goals are, and hopefully that we can multiply that. So as well as turn your what into how and when. So don't just sit in what you're wanting to do. Like, you have to step forward and say, this is what we're going to do, this is how we're going to do it, and this is when we're going to do it. So I think that's one thing that I'm excited for Ms. Gowan, is she is very driven, she's very hungry, she's wanting to do better, and I think that will be beneficial for both of us. She's going to make it a lot easier for me, honestly, as well as I'm not nervous, I'm not nothing. I'm excited. I'm excited to work for her. And also it says, if you want to grow, do what you know. And so I'm going to be able to help her in my 22 years of teaching. I can give her some tips and some things that may help her, some advice that may help her in what I know, in the simple things that maybe as a teacher, a new teacher, she's not really thinking about, or she's looking over, trying to get more in depth. And sometimes just keeping it simple and doing the simple things will help you. And lastly, information without application turns into stagnation. And this is really deep, and this is really good stuff, because I can withhold information, I can not give her information, or I can give her information, and if she doesn't apply that, then she's going to stay exactly where she is. There's going to be no growth, there's going to be no change in her classroom. So I just thought that was kind of cool that's what the sermon was on, is how to live for Jesus. But that 4th one you can totally put into an educational setting for growth minded. And I'm excited to work with her. I'm excited to put into play my playbook with her, and I love that she's excited. Got company, and that's it.